Welcome to LegacyCast, your source for hearing from top influencers, industry experts, and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is LegacyCast. Welcome, LegacyCast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, coming to you from my LegacyCast bunker here in North Texas, and have a very interesting gentleman here, a veteran buddy here from the North Texas area, Alex Fender. And he's got a couple different things going on, both with his business and also with a committee that he's part of that I certainly want to give him ample time to talk about, because it's something especially for veteran business owners, which a lot of the listeners here of the program are in fact veterans. So, this is something that's going to have, huge value for you guys. And so, on that note, I would like to welcome Alex to the program. Welcome for being here. Thanks for being here, Alex.
Thanks, James. Semper Fi, and thank you for having me.
Oh, good deal. Good deal. Got a Marine Corps veteran, so that's awesome. My oldest brother was a jarhead, so I recognize some of the lingo. I was Army, so we do the HUA thing instead of the Semper Fi, but I'm bilingual, so I understand some of your jargon.
Well, it's okay. Not all or the Marines used to say Army stands for ain't a real Marine yet. So I'll teach you and bring you up to speed, James, as we get to know each other. I'm sure your brother showed you a few things along the way too. But it's always good to with fellow veterans and service members.
Yeah, he was recon, so you can imagine the razzing and all the enjoyment I had growing up.
Oh yeah, you had the brotherly love going, but then you also had the inter-service rivalry going at the same time. So I bet he piled it on you pretty good there.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. But I'd throw the crayon jokes back at him, so it was all good. So here with Legacy.
My favorite color's red.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll actually have a question at the very end, custom designed for the Marines. So, I'm glad to have another Marine on here. It's been a little while, so I get to ask my favorite final question. So here with LegacyCast, we try to talk about things, obviously a legacy is kind of your story told your way. And so it's very important that people understand, what's involved in legacies. It means something different for everyone. So that's part of what I enjoy bringing on here with different guests is there's going to be a different perspective. Mine being a legacy does obviously have a financial element, but that's not the only thing, because it's also educational, it's intellectual, it's what are we doing that's going to make a difference in the community, and who are we coming in contact with, how are we impacting them, and in turn how are we helping them to become better people for having known us. Those are the things that are all involved in a person's legacy. So like I say, it's your story, and it's a very deliberate thing. So Alex, when you're thinking about legacy, obviously you have a business standpoint and also things you're doing in the community. So when you're thinking about a legacy, how would you say that you would define that? What does that mean to you?
Well, with a legacy, it's how people remember you once you've left. And so oftentimes people talk about what legacy are you leaving, or what seeds are you planting now that are going to be here after you've left this earth. And so when I think of legacy, there's few people in history that have made such a huge impact on their legacy, but Genghis Khan is one, Alexander Great, David, the story of David and Goliath from the Bible. Right. There's people that have left their legacy or mark on humanity in history that perseveres through time. And so that's what I think of as it relates as a legacy, not so much the financial impact, but either the the evils that you've done and left behind and people talk about, or the good deeds that you sowed while you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you pointed out, the good and the bad, because, a lot of people don't think of it, in those terms, but that is the reality of it, is that, a legacy is, how you're impacting or how you're influencing. And at all times, there's always somebody watching, there's always someone listening. And so you're impacting people one way or the other. And so that's why I mentioned that, it's a deliberate thing. You have to be very deliberate in what you're doing with your legacy, because that is going to carry on. People, like I say, they are watching, they are listening. And so do you feel, Alex, that it's something important that people actually spend time contemplating, what their legacy is?
I absolutely do, because the legacy that they're building should be a part of their plan. And so they should have a planned execution to roll out, and they should have or they want to make sure that they're not seen in a negative light. So that should go into planning. And also it should take shape of meditation, right? Just
sure.
Taking all the distractions out from the world and just focusing in on that. And so I think it should be something that people think about not just once, but daily, often, many times a day. One thing that I was taught in my undergrad by Professor Belcher, he was a Marine Corps pilot in Vietnam, and he became a financial planner. And one thing that he had mentioned was about every time he sees a penny, he stops down to pick it up. He's never too busy to pick it up. And this was in one of his class lessons. And he held up a penny and he said, "In every penny, it says, 'In God we trust.' And this is just one way to know that you can trust in God, because he's giving you the most smallest blessings there at your feet." And his point further was that you shouldn't pass up these small blessings, that you should pick them up, and you should, one, thank God, but then also, if you're so willing to pass up a penny, then why would God put $1,000 opportunity in front of you, or $1 million blessing in front of you? If you were too lazy to pick up that one penny, then why would God waste the opportunity on a bigger on it? So that's how, one of the things that was taught to me on building the legacy, each day that you go by, that you don't skip over the blessings, that you're aware, you're paying attention, but that you're also executing a plan. And the plan doesn't happen over a year or a couple years, but it's going to happen over a lifetime. And that's how you're going to be measured in the end, is not based on these single events that we do, or maybe your 8 years of service in the military. It's going to be the collective lifespan what you've left behind over that time. That's how I see a legacy taking shape.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I do like that analogy, because that's a very literal sense of how things are, and how, you mentioned blessings. That's how blessings become, is that, we're given small blessings, and what we do with those, we're stewards of everything that we receive. And so, what we're doing with those small blessings are then going to come in a very real sense as larger and larger and larger blessings. So, and also a person of faith, likewise, I see very much, how God will do that in our lives, because, just as you were mentioning, with the penny, why would we receive more if we're just going to pass up the little things and not cherish and honor those small blessings? How could we expect to get large ones? So, I appreciate you bringing that up, especially early on, because that sets up kind of a tone for our podcast in a way, is sort of putting into our minds the very real and very intentional and very deliberate things that we do. So thank you for bringing that up. How do you correlate into your particular ventures, your legacy plans? I mean, how's that fit in to what you do as a business, or even the community you're part of?
Well, the first statement on my LinkedIn profile says, "I aspire to leave the people and places I visit better than I found them." And so each and every day, there's just certain things that I do along the way to try to make them better, like picking up trash. When I talk about picking up trash, like I live in off of Lake Ray Hubbard, and on Rowlett Creek, there's a ton of trash that comes down. I call it the lake trash. and I'm down in there in my waders, up to mud in my chest, and I'm picking up trash. And then I have meetings with my customers, and I run funnel science. And funnel science, one of our goals is to help increase the sales and marketing performance for our clients. So a quick snippet, I helped a client the other day. My whole team did. It wasn't just me, it was my company. And he said to us, if we couldn't help him, that 10 of his employees were going to lose his job. And they had tried to fix this with Google for 4 months, and they couldn't, when we were able to fix it in just under a week. And so sometimes leaving your legacy is helping people that, they just needed genuine help. And then other aspects of helping people is just sharing, in telling people where the minefields are at and helping them avoid going down the wrong path. And sometimes people don't want to listen. Sometimes people have to take the path of the University of Hard Knocks or the path of Hard Knocks. It's because they're not ready to listen yet. And so sometimes you need to share with people, hey, you may not want to do that. You're setting yourself up for failure. And then recently through a Facebook group, went out to Fort Worth and helped a veteran and his wife. They needed help moving. So me and some vets just went and volunteered and helped this guy move his stuff. So try to be real active in the community, but in different ways. I don't have just one dynamic to it. And then the other part of the community is just sharing when people are doing a really good job. There's a group called Boot and Shoot. They do a sporting clay tournament. They raise a lot of money to buy houses. So that's one that I've been a part of for several years. One as a volunteer. Two, I help with just getting the word out and getting veterans signed up as teams. And then I'm also by teams and shoot on the Boot and Shoot. So that's another example of not necessarily leaving my legacy, but that's helping somebody else with their legacy and their mission, and it comes full circle to the veteran community.
On that note, you mentioned the different events and organizations and what have you. And before we came on, you were kind of touching on this is the Small Business Administration having a special committee for veterans, and how so few veterans are actually aware of this. And in fact, I was not fully aware of this particular committee either. And so, I'd love for you to spend a few minutes here and kind of dig deeper into that group, the purpose of the group, and what all is going on there, because a lot of the listener here of this program are in fact veteran business owners. So this is going to have a lot of value and a lot of relevance for the people listening in today. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important that people need to know what their government is doing for them and what their government tax dollars is doing. And one of the things, so every service member, it's required by law, when you leave the service, you have to go to TAPS class. You remember going to yours, James?
They didn't have that when I got out back in '92. That wasn't in existence yet.
So that's a shame, because a lot of guys get out and they don't know what is available to them. So now they have transition and transition assistance program is what it is. It's a 5-day course, and there's on each of the 5 days there's a different aspect of it. The SBA holds boots to business. So if you're leaving the service now, you're going through TAPS, and you're going through one thing that the SBA oversees. So the Small Business Administration, it's headquartered in Washington, D.C., and we meet quarterly. It's open to the public, and it's an interagency task force on veteran small business development. And the advisory committee is there. It's by law. It was created in 1953. It's a cabinet level, so it aids the federal government, and we're to assist and protect the interest of small business concerns. And we're there to preserve the free and competitive enterprise, maintain and strengthen the overall economy. And the SBA's purpose is to start, build, and grow businesses and to recover from disasters. So the advisory committee, it's formed of 15 members. There's 8 members like myself that's a veteran that owns a business. And then there are 7 committee members that are veteran service organizations. like Hire Our Heroes or Bunker Labs. Those are two that are VSOs on the current committee. Right. And then we meet on a quarterly basis. We go to Washington, D.C., and we meet there for a full day meeting. Like I said, it's open to the public. They're also doing conference call and where you can call into the webinar and listen in to the meeting, or you can join in on the webinar.
So is that something that all business owners, veteran business owners could join in on that webinar, or is that just for the committee people?
It's all, anybody can join in. So veterans can join in, the general public, anybody can call in and be aware of it. There's a meeting agenda that's published to the Federal Register, and there's an agenda that they're going to cover for each meeting. So there's coming up, the commercial supply chain they're going to be talking about commercial supply chain. They're also going to be talking about federal procurement for veteran and a veteran training program specifically, so veteran-owned companies can go the path of procuring contracts. Okay. There's going to be also at 10:30, we're going to be talking about programs for rural veterans. So if you're a rural veteran and you want to know about this, then you need to be calling in at about 10:15. If you're interested in this CDFI project, then you need to be calling in at 11. So you may not call in for the whole meeting. You might just call in for certain parts that are specific to your business or what you're working on.
Okay. What was the date on that program so that we can make sure that people know about that?
It's coming up on Thursday, September 6th. The meeting starts at 9 a.m. and it goes to 4 p.m. and that's Eastern time. If they wanted to meet in person, they could meet in person at the Eisenhower Conference Room at the U.S. Small Business Administration headquarters in Washington, D.C. I'm going to forward that information to you.
Okay. And then I'll also blast that onto the Legacy Cast page as well so that people can get that information and jump on that.
I just put it in the chat for you, or I'm about to. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Now with this advisory committee, you're mentioning that was something that you were selected to be on that because of you were a winner of some form of a contest or nomination from your particular business with Funnel Science. Is that right?
Yeah, so let me tell you just the history of how I got to the advisory committee. I started Funnel Science in 2011. It's the third business that I've owned. In 2016, so there's a competition called the Veterans Business Battle. It's a business plan competition held at Rice University. And in February of 2017, I went to the competition down at Rice, and we won the Veterans Business Battle. And so a year later, I was contacted by a man in Washington, D.C., and he was notifying me that I got a nomination for an appointment. So they called and did some verification and basically wanted to confirm that I would do it because it's a volunteer position. The government reimburses for travel and expenses, but they don't pay me to be there. And so I got the nomination. The vetting process took 9 months. And after 9 months of them going through my background and different stuff, then I received the appointment. So if you get onto the committee, you're appointed for 3 years. And so the current committee is full. So that's good because last year in 2017, there was many vacancies. And so now the current Small Business Administration Secretary, she's fully appointed the committee, and each of us have that for 3 years. Now, there's also on the committee a chairperson. They hold that position for a year, and then it rotates. So that's a little bit of background to how I got there. how the nomination process works. So not anybody can just do it. You actually have to get it nominated, and then they do the vetting, and then if you pass the vetting process, then you'll get the appointment letter.
Okay. So for the listeners here, it's good to know that Alex, among the other 14 members, they're there, fighting for us as business owners, and so that's huge. To know that there is that group out there that is taking care of business, behind the scenes, because we really do need that assistance in that program that's going on there, because that's going to affect a lot of the different things that are coming down the pike for everybody else. And so, having people there, on the federal level is huge. That's a huge thing. So, much appreciation there, Alex, for being part of that, and congratulations for not only winning the veteran business battle down there at Rice, but then getting the appointment to be part of the program and represent us so well there up in DC.
Yeah, there's some other veterans that are on the panel that are doing great things. It's one thing that I was really happy to see is that this committee is full of veterans that are out there really doing stuff, and they're very active, but they're also successful in different ways, and they have different backgrounds. And in the appointment letter, it says this is the committee members' responsibility is to provide independent advice and policy recommendations to the SBA administrator. Well, that's Linda McMahon, and she was appointed by Donald Trump, the president. And the recommendations go to the SBA administrator, to SBA associate admins for the Office of Veterans Business Development. They also go to Congress, the president, and other U.S. policymakers on the programs affecting veteran-owned small businesses for all segments of American society. So here, the government, and it's created by law, there is a law that has to form a committee of independent people. So we're not all Republican, we're not all Democrat, it's not anything like that. It's independent, and we get to see and have access to the government, and we can tell them if they're doing a good job or not, and we can scrutinize them, and that's exactly what happened. Now, we're not there just to go and complain and have a bitch session. That's not what it's there. We're there to see, are the programs doing a good job? Are the people asking the right questions? Do the people in the government have the right tools? I've talked to people at the TAPS class and some different VBOCs, Veteran Business Outreach Centers. Right. The VBOC is very important and crucial to the veteran entrepreneur, but most people don't know that. They don't know that they exist. And so as the committee member, we're here, but we're also trying to get the information out through the various channels. And so if you're a veteran entrepreneur, you need to know your Veteran Business Outreach Center. If you're in Texas, or in the Dallas area, there's one at University of Texas in Arlington. These are a free service. All you have to do is call and schedule an appointment, but most people don't know they exist. And so most people don't know the committee exists. Most people think, the government's out to get me and the government's not doing anything for us, but that's not the case. There's a lot going on, but it also has to do with just bridging the gap between what people don't know and showing them what they need to know.
Yeah, and you're mentioning the Veterans Business Outreach Center there at UTA. Patrick Alcorn is the gentleman, I believe, that's in charge of that particular one. And so, that's a person to certainly, for the North Texas listeners here, to reach out to him, because Patrick's a good guy and can help plug you into a lot of different things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they can help with, like they can help you with your pre-business plans. They have business plan workshops. They have a lot to do with helping you form your concept. So these are for basically a pre-revenue startup. Now, if you're running your business already, they have different types of training programs. If you're selling international, the SBA has different loan opportunities where 90% guaranteed if you're doing exports. So this is something that the VBOC can help with. Maybe you just need access to capital and you're looking for an SBA loan or maybe a micro loan at your VBOC. That is where you go. So it's not just good people, but they have good information and they can get you connected to what you need to know as a business owner to be more successful.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome information there, Alex. And, I hope that some of the listeners here are taking notes, and, if you're driving, replay the broadcast, and, take notes when you get back to your house or to your office, because this is some really valuable information that, I hope that some of the veteran listeners are taking advantage of, because, it's there for you. And so, certainly, take full advantage of it, because, like Alex mentioned, it's put into place by law. And so, take advantage of what's out there, because tax dollars are paying for it. And as veteran business owners, you're entitled to it.
Yeah, that's key. There's a lot of things that you're entitled to or have access to. The veteran just needs to make the first step and reach out. Maybe you have to make
Sure.
the second or third step and do the follow-up and make sure you go to your appointments. But there's different groups around that are very active in promoting veterans to be successful and giving you the tools. And so, but a lot of guys don't know about it, is they're just not doing the research, or when they're in the TAPS class, they're not really paying attention to the Boost the Business program. But
Right.
there's lots of free training, and oftentimes people just need help getting access to information. And once you show them the way, then they can take it from there. And so that's where these VBOCs really fit in. So I strongly recommend that everybody get connected, know what region you're in. You can look that up on the SBA website. It's real simple. You just go to Google and type in Veterans Business Outreach Center, and then there's 22 offices around the country, and just make contact with them. There's also other organizations around the VBOCs they're connected to. So they may not have one in your city, but there's different people closer to that can help out.
Sure. Yeah, good information there, man. Now, as far as kind of getting back on some of the legacy conversation with you, if you were looking at that from the CEO standpoint of your business, what would you say a few things are that maybe are very concerning to you on a business level? Maybe even keeping you up at night, as the saying goes.
Fortunately, I've gotten through most of the keeping me up at night, but there's some things that still stress me out. One of the things that's real hard to deal with at Funnel Science is the constant change in the technology. It's pretty frustrating that Google can change something and it now impacts thousands of businesses, and now thousands of businesses become reactive to something that Google or Facebook change. And sometimes these companies build their business off of Google campaigns or Facebook ad campaigns, and then the company shuts them down literally overnight. And so I'm not really talking about censored media. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm talking about, you're paying for service, you're working with these companies, and then next thing you know, you go into work and it's not the way you left it the night before. That can be real frustrating and hard on businesses. The other thing that I see that's frustrating is just a lot of ignorance out there. People starting a business, and they really shouldn't be starting a business yet. They're in business and they're doing a bad job, and they just need to get the education and training. Now, sometimes you have to learn through the University of Hard Knocks, but then there's other times where people are just not realistic in their plan. They're going and trying to execute a plan. If this were a military mission, it would get the whole company wiped out, and there's a reason why so many businesses fail.
Right.
You're not likely to be successful if you start a business. In fact, you're more likely to go bankrupt. In the first 5 years, most businesses fail. If you look at the statistics on the failure rate of businesses, it's not easy to start. I mean, it's so simple to start a business. You can do it for like $20 or $30 and get a DBA going and file with the courthouse. But it takes way more than that. And so it's frustrating to see so many people impacted because of their business in such a negative way, when the purpose of starting the business was to build a legacy and to set your family up for success and have a stable path in the future. But I don't see a lot of people doing that. I see a lot of people just go from, I had a drink, I'm at a bar, I'm going to write down my business plan on a napkin, I got the best thing since sliced bread, and then they go out and execute. And then, they're having problems later on. I see a lot of that, and I hope to help people, change that approach. Sometimes you just need to know your website sucks or your business plan sucks. It's not going to work. There's people that have been there and done that, but I see a lot of people rushing to start a business because it sounds cool, or they think they're going to make a lot of money. They don't realize how tough it is, and how you're not likely to be successful. You're more likely to fail. You're more likely to be in bankruptcy court. It's one of the most risky things you can do is start a business. Yet people do it all day, every day. Why is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're mentioning just the failure rate. I love statistics, and so people that know me know that I just love numbers. Maybe that's why I'm a bean counter. But with those particular statistics, 2/3 of businesses are going to fail in the first 2 years, and then half of businesses are going to fail within the first 5 years. So that's already all but 1/3 of businesses, and so 1/3 of them will last up to 10 years. And so, the odds are stacked against you. 7 out of 8 companies end up failing, and so you really have to be fully aware of what those challenges are. And you're mentioning things like the small business owner, the entrepreneur just jumping into business. It's really easy to get excited about I'm passionate about this particular project or this particular cause, and I want to jump into business because it's going to be really good. I want to make money and I'm going to grow and what have you. And so then people will just do it, almost, flying by the seat of their pants, doing it willy-nilly. And I see all the time, small businesses that never even took the time to build a business plan to begin with before they've ever even decided to go into business. And it's like, trying to take a trip from Los Angeles to New York. You wouldn't hop in the car and go on that long drive, 3,000 miles across the country without at least having a roadmap or a GPS to show you how to get there. And yet people are doing that with their businesses, trying to open the doors without even knowing, what that course of action is going to be and what their business, how those, bumps in the road are going to come up and how to plan for them. And so, it's no wonder that so many fail because people are not going through those stages. It may not be sexy to build a business plan, but it's a lot less sexy to go bankrupt.
Yeah, and when you're building your legacy and you're doing your plan, like you take your idea in your head and you go, I think I have a good idea. Well, how do you know you have a good idea? You need to go flush that idea out. Sometimes I see people go from idea and they try to execute, and then they think they're doing a good job executing, but they're actually doing a really bad job executing. Why? Because they have no training. They have no plan. They don't know what they're executing, but they went from idea to execution, and then they start struggling, and then they wonder why. Now, you can do just through sheer grit and dumb luck, you can make a business work, but it's way tougher that way. Yeah. And so vetting your idea, putting it in front of a group. I remember I was in a training class, and this veteran, he said he had this really great business idea, but he didn't want to share it with anybody because he was trying to protect his core, his intellectual knowledge, as he said it. But in his own execution, he didn't realize the blunder and the flaw that he was making. If he didn't tell anybody about his great idea, then nobody would know anything about it. And so his business never got off the ground. And so he wanted some other people to invest in his idea, but he refused to share his great idea with anybody. And it was just kind of ridiculous. It was like, well, all right, you're not going to, how do you plan on getting the word out and sharing and building this idea from business? And in the business plan class, he could not articulate. He could not get it out of his head on why his idea was so great. He never launched the business, thank goodness, but because it wasn't a viable option, right? But in his head, he had that great idea. And so Jim Reed at Momentum, Texas, he does a great training program, and he trains veterans for free, and he teaches out of the Kauffman Foundation's book. And Kauffman is one of the best entrepreneurial training programs there are. And so Jim Reed does a great thing. He has classes up here in Dallas, San Antonio, El Paso, Tyler, all over. And he's somebody I'd recommend getting connected to. If you're here in Texas or in the Oklahoma region or in the Southwest, definitely recommend getting connected to the Texas Veteran Business Summit and also what Jim is doing with the entrepreneurship and training programs.
Yeah, Jim's a really good guy, and he's at some of the networking events that I've been at. I've come in contact with Jim quite a bit, and he also has an elevator pitch contest that he puts out at a lot of his events. So for those of you that do networking, if you don't know how to tell about your business really quick to get somebody's attention, then they're not going to be interested enough in knowing more. And so learning even how to do that elevator pitch, as boring as it might sound, that's going to be the difference between that passing in the hallway conversation turning into an actual lead that turns into business. So you have to know how to pitch yourself 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, and it's just that simple bit of knowledge, being able, like you said, James, to have that elevator pitch. Mm-hmm. That's what sets the guys apart that are successful from those that aren't successful, because the veterans that are unsuccessful don't have their elevator pitch down. When somebody asks them, tell me about your business, they start trying to tell this long story, and it's all here and there and whatnot. No, like you said, in 30 seconds or less, I need to know your name, what you do, and hopefully you've left some memorable impression on how you can help that fast. And so, but a lot of people don't take the time to do that elevator pitch. So Jim Reed's pitch contest is a great way. For me, I did the Veterans Business Battle. I was trying to compete and see how well does Funnel Science compete against other businesses. There was hundreds of applicants and only 16 finalists. And of the 16 finalists, we made it and we were the winner, right? Well, that gave me validation on my idea. Number one, in there, I had 10 minutes to pitch the business. I had to compete against other people. Well, that's what business is. Business is a competition. It's a battlefield. It's a war for resources is what it is. Right. Every day, people are going into work and they are trying to procure resources, use those resources, and make money. Sometimes they squander them away. Sometimes they get the resource and partially get it, or sometimes they don't. They maximize the resource. But that's what it is. And one of the main resources is networking, your time. And each time you go out and meet a person, you have the opportunity to say hello to them. Now, you may not be able to help their problem, but it's likely that if you leave a good impression on them, that you can get a phone call or referral out of it going down the road. But so many people just suck at their elevator pitch, and they cannot explain who they are and what they do. And if they're able to do it, it never happens in 30 seconds.
That's true. And you're making a good point there that you may not be able to help that person, but everyone knows someone. Everyone has a network. And you may not be doing business with the person that you're talking to, but they know somebody that needs you. And so the better you can prepare them to tell their network about you, the more likely it is, like you said, that you're going to get that referral. And referral business is good business. That's a nice warm lead, and they're going to give you more chance for success by that referral than if you tried to do that cold conversation. I'll take a referral every day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've had so many people refer me business from people that I never even knew. I got a referral the other day. I was working with the guy for a month, and I was like, how did you hear about us? And he was like, well, the webmaster. The webmaster lives in Seattle. I've never been to Seattle, and she's referring business to me. Why? Because I did a good job on another one of her projects. James, when you and I grew up, there was what was called the 6 degrees of separation. And the idea or the theory is that we're connected to all people in the world by 6 degrees, or within 6 contacts. Well, with the advent of social media and where we're at now, it's now within 4 degrees of separation. And I've kind of tested that a couple times over the years, but it's amazing how closely we're connected to people just through 1 or 2 of our contacts. For example, when I was in the Marines, I never had a single general ever address me by name. In 2012, I had 3 different generals address me by first name, right? So now if you come into contact with me, well, I know a couple of generals. Well, a couple of these generals are pretty high up within organizations, and you can reach out and talk to them real quick just through knowing and coming in and building a relationship with me. And James, you probably have that as well as you're building out your podcast and show. You meet people that are very influential. Well, through these different contacts, we're really only separated within 4 to 6 people with anybody in the world. Well, that's amazing. Will somebody say, well, Alex, that's impossible. How are you related to somebody in Africa? Well, that's simple. There's a company over in Grand Prairie called Ganamat. I was referred to them by a Marine Colonel, Grant Seabolt. He's a business lawyer. He referred me to this African company. And then now I'm doing business with somebody in that Nana knows, then you're in touch with them. Through our military connections, through our school connections, just through friends and family, it's amazing how close we are. So that general that I was talking about, well, that general knows Mad Dog Mattis. Well, who's Mad Dog Mattis? Well, he's one of the cabinet members of President Trump. So now through me, through General Williams, Mad Dog, Donald Trump, right? So there's simple connections. You would never thought that these doors would have opened for a Marine sergeant, grew up dirt poor, but here it is. You have the ability to leverage these tools, your connections, the networking, but you got to, like you say, leave a good legacy. So I didn't just happen to one day have these connections. It took 10 years of hard work and building up to get to that point. It only takes one day, though. It only takes one day of screwing it up to completely ruin your legacy and your reputation. So you got to protect it every day, just like you build it.
That's true. And that's why I tell people, you're building your legacy is very deliberate and it's very intentional. And so you have to be, like you said, you have to be very mindful about what you're doing, because, one misstep can really ruin, like you said, years worth of hard work and trying to build, that nice network or trying to build your business. And so, be deliberate in what you're doing and the choices, because, they always will, come back to bite you if you made a bad decision. And there's always somebody watching. People think, well, nobody's going to see me. Yeah, bull. Yeah, that's a bunch of bull. There's always somebody watching. And so, we're going to make a difference, one way or the other. It's just, is that a good difference or a bad one? So, as far as
always somebody watching, and there's always a video camera recording.
Nowadays, for sure, yeah. So, as far as some additional resources, I know you'd mentioned tons of different resources, but as far as with your business, maybe somebody is wanting to go into a similar or parallel type venture. What resources did you come across that you would recommend to somebody wanting to go into a technical type business that would be helpful to them?
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's getting into tech. You really need to have subject matter expertise. And so before I started Funnel Science, I'd been doing digital marketing myself for probably 10 years. At least 10 years before I started. So Empower is an organization that does training for veterans. I would definitely recommend that. Google certification program. I'd strongly recommend that. Google impacts our way of life significantly. I'd also, if you're going into tech, you really need to have a bachelor's degree, and you need to go to a master's program and work on certifications. So I can't underestimate the training, but then there's also the continued and retraining of it. So LinkedIn has some training that you can do, but then there's also tools like Code Academy. There's a lot online. There's so many resources online for tech. I would say the key, though, is getting a major certification, like getting certifications from Google, Microsoft certifications, SAP, whichever track you're trying to go down. So you can be a Salesforce consultant and get Salesforce certification. Facebook, if you wanted to be a Facebook ad agency or consultant, then go that path. It really depends on which tech specialty you're going down would match up to which training to go with. But without the certifications, you're really going to have a tough time positioning yourself. With the certifications, it's not to say that you're the best, but at least it says, hey, I've accomplished this and I'm knowledgeable in this area. But without that, you're going to have a real tough time competing.
Yep. Yeah, and that's even the same in my space with the finance world, is that, you know, having those certifications, those credentials is going to make the difference between, you know, you and the next person, and in, you know, quite literally, the difference between you even being able to get into the space or not. And so many people, you know, they focus just on the degrees, but those certifications will in fact posture you to be at the same pay scale as someone with a PhD. And so, you know, having certifications isn't something to be sneered at, because it actually is more important in many cases than the full-on degrees. And so, you know, it's another course that somebody could follow to be able to get into an industry.
One thing that happened in the military is they were constantly teaching schools and having classroom lessons. And one thing that happens with a lot of veterans that get out of the service is that they stop going to schools, and then they lose their competitive advantage, right? And so, like for myself, I have to recertify on 5 freaking exams every year, and then there's 2 more that are every 18 months. That's every freaking year, right? That's just to stay on top of and stay present with what my industry is doing. Well, there's no way I can do them all, so then you have to hire a team and have a team of specialists. But I don't want to be the expert in the room. I would rather have a team of experts around me advising me on what to do. So you have to earn your own place in business and in the world, but then you need to be building leaders around you and training them and giving your information to them and empowering them. And so that's a big part of it as well. And that definitely goes into your legacy. I've trained a lot of veterans to become Google certified, and that's one thing I set out to do, is that it's really hard to get into the space. Why? Because if you have no experience, nobody wants to hire you. So they basically have to take a chance and bet on you, right? And so the bet that I've taken is on people that have signed their life away on the dotted line. If they're willing to do that for their country, then I'm willing to do that for them and give them a job and give them the training and help them break into the space. And so sometimes it's just about getting that connection, that mentor, that right person to help show you into the tech space and where, you know, you individually fit in or where you best fit in. So getting a mentor is really, really crucial. And not just having one, having 2 or 3. I'd say Gene Blanton is probably Gene Blanton and Wade Myers are the 2 men that I look up to the most. And if I could live my life and turn out to be one of them, then I'm sure I would have left a great legacy in my life. Somebody that you might want to reach out to and talk to is Wade Myers. Wade Myers, he's an Army veteran, has a Bronze Star from the first Gulf War. He Harvard MBA, so super smart, and this guy's really accomplishing stuff as an entrepreneur, as an investor, and as an advisor. And just each day they live their life in such a positive way. And so having that mentorship to say, hey, this is who I aspire to be, and I want to be like them. You know, so I've surrounded myself with people that will help shape the legacy that I build and that I leave behind. And hopefully I can follow in their footsteps and do just as good, and maybe if I'm fortunate enough to surpass what they're doing, but at least if I follow in their shadows and footsteps, I know I'll be doing a good deed to this world and living out a good life.
Yeah, and you know, when you're mentioning the different gentlemen there and also mentors, is people should surround themselves with, you know, when you're picking a mentor, surround yourself with those that, you know, they've achieved what you want to achieve, they have what you want to have, they've succeeded in the area that you want to succeed in, because just, you know, it's almost by osmosis, it seems sometimes, that, you know, just surrounding yourself with those people, it's going to rub off. You know, there's truth to that saying that we are the sum of, you know, the 5 or 6 people that we surround ourselves with and spend the most time with. And so you surround yourself with good, successful people, you have a much better chance of becoming one. You surround yourself with negative people, naysayers, people that have that scarcity mentality as opposed to the, you know, the abundance mentality. You're you're going to be a scarcity person. You spend your life around people who are broke, you're going to be broke. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's when you're choosing a mentor, choose carefully, but then, choose people that have what you want, because it will rub off. And don't be afraid to ask for help from them, because chances are they want to help you. They've succeeded because somebody helped them, and they want to pass that along. It's kind of, head trash, as I call it, that people say, those people don't want to help me. That's probably a bunch of BS. They in fact do want to help you because somebody helped them, and it makes them feel good because they're trying to build their legacy at the same time as you're trying to build yours. So there's my 2 cents worth there on that part.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy the other day through a Facebook group, and he and I've talked on the phone a couple of times. I don't know him too well, but the guy's name's Curtis, and he made a post shortly after about guilty by association. And if you associate yourself with the wrong people, you're going to bring the wrong type of spotlight on yourself. But then also, if you associate with yourself, it's like birds of feather flock together. There's some person that came up with that saying probably 1,000 years ago. Well, it still rings true today. Who you associate with. And like you said, the 5 people you spend the most time with, that's who you become. And so if you're surrounding yourself with 5 shitheads, expect yourself to become a shithead, but you just may not know it because you hang out in the shithead community, right? So you might need to have 4 friends that, you need to branch out with different mentors. Sometimes people get stuck in these groups and they just don't realize how that group dynamic or that peer pressure is just sucking them into a path, just the wrong path. But then you got these other groups that are going the other way, and they're going lightning fast, doing positive things in their community and what they're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that even applies to clients that you're seeking. Is if you're seeking clients that are basically the low-hanging fruit, then you're going to be known for doing business with the low-hanging fruit. And so, think better of your business. Don't just go for the easy business, but go for the businesses maybe a little bit harder. Go for the client that is the more high net worth client that you thought you may not be able to get, because before long, all the people you're working with will then be the high net worth client, and you'll be known for that. So it's like you're saying, another saying that I heard growing up, we're Texans here, so I can throw this one out there. You lie with dogs, you're going to catch fleas. So it's just like that. That's what you're going to attract, is what you're around. So
that is true. That is absolutely true. Although I did hear a tip on that from a veterinarian. If you have a pool and your dogs drink pool water, and I have a pool and I cannot keep my dogs from drinking the pool water, it keeps the fleas off of them. So that's about the only. You hang with dogs that surround yourself or drink pool water, chlorine, you might not get fleas, but the rest of them you'll definitely get bit on.
Yeah, problem is your carpet will lose its color. When they pee on your carpet, you have that bleach passing through. So
yeah,
there is that.
That's hilarious. Well, what else do you want to talk about, James?
Well, I just had a couple more questions, before our time wraps up here. Kind of on the subject of values, though, with value system, is a lot of people incorporate their values into their business, and then, especially nowadays, there's sort of 2 schools of thought of, leave your values, or especially even your religious beliefs, out of your business, and then others that, very much incorporate it into their business. Which side of that fence would you say that you fall on, and how would you advise others to follow, that position?
Yeah, I think your values need to be shown through your work and through your actions and through your words. And I don't think that you really believe in your values if you're not bringing that with you everywhere you go. And I also think if you're willing to sacrifice your values for money, you're willing to sacrifice your values and lie to people or scam them or trick them, then there are really no values at all, right? They're meaningless and don't have any real value that you're living by. And I see a lot of that. I think that you should set the path that others want to emulate and follow. And so that doesn't mean that you carry your values here from 8 to 5 and then drop them off, or that you don't bring your values to work. And I mean, one of the problems with the government is the government gets involved and tells people, like the baker, you can't, you have to make this cake for this person, and their religious background says that, hey, I'm not supposed to do it. I think also people misunderstand or misinterpret their values and always want to be in the right. And they think, oh, I have these values, and so I'm gonna set the high ground here. Like, good grief, who are you? You're just another man, or you're just another woman. We need to treat people with respect. We need to treat all people with respect, even if we don't have the same viewpoints or the culture or background, but we should be able to share values. We may not come from the same town. We may not come from the same culture. I mean, Texans, we're way different than Californians.
Right.
Texans are way different than New Yorkers, but we can share common values. Do not lie. Do not cheat. Do not steal. That should be understood. There's values, and so I think that I can separate it. You have human values, but you also have like laws of nature. You have laws of humanity, right? Laws of nature, laws of the physical world, laws of God. Well, those things don't go away just because we don't want to recognize them. It just means you're not recognizing them. And so these things maintain true, whether you want to recognize it as an individual or as a group or as a society. I mean, cheating somebody should just not be acceptable, right?
True.
But you also don't have to shove your doctrine down their throat and force feed and tell them how they are and what they are and who they have to be. That's ridiculous. And so I see a lot of this on the internet and on the news. And it's just, I think some people have taken this too far with their political ideology or their propaganda, if you will. They're trying to share and say something that they are, and they're really not. And so I think that, Marine Corps taught us do not lie, cheat, or steal. And they taught us God, country, family, Corps, right? And so these are things that maintain true for all people wherever they are. But I know people that drop their values with their family or drop their values with their wives or with their children. It's just not a good way to live. It's just not living with purpose and not doing anything real good in the world.
Yeah, very, very well put. Very well put, Alex. Because I've found this is something I do with my business, because all the people that know me and do business with me, they know I'm a person of faith, and so I don't beat around the bush. I don't hide it. I don't sugarcoat it. But also know that there will be some people that if they're uncomfortable with that, that's okay. We can shake hands and part as friends. They're probably not going to be the best client for me. And so, that becomes, kind of that understood conversation that there's right up front that, I may not be able to help you. You may not be comfortable with where I come to the table, but that's okay. I do know somebody who's going to be appropriate for you, and I can still bring value to your life. So, that's the difference in, you were mentioning the case of, the baker and someone who had different belief structure is, that could have been handled better. It didn't have to be handled the way that it was, but, there could have been another way to handle that. And, there's many situations of that sort to where, people can inject their values and should inject your values into your business, because like you said, Alex, if you're willing to separate and be a different person on the clock versus off the clock, then that's not being honest. We have a mutual veteran influencer, Stephen Kuhn, that has the belief system of honesty, integrity, and transparency. I totally agree with his philosophy on that, because if you're honest and you conduct with integrity and you're very transparent about things, then people know exactly where you stand, and they're going to respect that. And so just conduct your life that way, with that kind of an honesty. And like you said, don't lie, cheat, and steal, because those things, they shouldn't be done, and we shouldn't even question it. Yet unfortunately in our society, I think we've sort of reached a point where we try to and want to question everything, and we want to quantify everything. And that may be a point where we should try to rewind the clock and stop questioning everything, because they are laws, that they're laws of nature, laws of man, laws of God that we should not question. So with another question I have for you as we're winding up here. It's the trivia question that I like to ask people. What is something about you, Alex, that most people don't know? Kind of give us a little insight to you.
A lot of people know this, but they don't really understand the passion. So I grew up poor, and I grew up without a dad, didn't have a dad around, and I was always working. I had to work real young, but one of the things that I always wanted that's really helped me in a lot of ways and opened doors was my very first car was a 69 Mustang. And still today I have another 69 Mustang, and it's something about that 1969 fastback Mustang, the Mach 1 sport roof body style, that has just really shaped a lot of who I am. I've learned a lot on working on cars. I used to skip school because my car broke down and I had to fix it. I didn't have wheels to work or school. And so I don't know why that 69 Mustang, it's kind of like that movie Gone in 60 Seconds, and they had the 67, the Eleanor, for the guy. The 69 has been my main thing. So I've owned 6 of them now, and been building my dream car. So I finally was able to build my dream car, and it took 20 years of dreaming before I could get there. But that dream turned into, my goal, and then it turned into something I was actually able to achieve. And so it's just a material possession. I can't take it with me. I'm just the temporary holder of this car. But man, it sure did feel good to be able to get to that point in life where I could live out a dream, something I'd wanted to do all my life. The only other dream that I had ever lived out that took that long, I watched Top Gun. I think I was 4 or 5 years old. And I said, one day I'm going to be like that. I'm going to be a fighter pilot. I always knew I was going to join the military after watching that, but I ended up not being a fighter pilot. I did something better. I became a Marine. From the time I was 5, it took, 13 more years before I grew up and lived out that dream. So here's another one that I started out as a young man in my teenage years, and then was in my 30s that I finally got to the point where that dream that I had in my head of what that car would look like finally came true. And so, and then because of that, it's opened up so many doors and just different things that I've been able to do by just pursuing that dream and having that passion of this old car. I tell people that I have OCD, old car disease, and I just cannot shake it out of my head.
I understand. My first car was a 71 Mustang Mach 1, so a couple of years newer than yours, but I totally get it. 69s are awesome. They don't make them like they used to, that's for sure. So for the final question,
it's funny how
go ahead.
I was going to say it's interesting how they're starting to redesign the cars to look like the old Mustangs, and the same with Camaro. They're bringing back those classic designs. So I thought that was really cool to see that on the newer models.
Yep. Yeah, if they were just built as strong as the old ones, that'd be a lot better. But
yeah.
So for our wrap-up question here, it's my Marine targeted question. You get an extra freebie here. Since you're a Marine, I do have that one question, though. If you were a new color of crayon, what color would that be? How would you describe it, and what would its flavor be?
If I were, it'd probably be called salt and vinegar. It'd have the Marine Corps colors on it, and it would taste like salt and vinegar, just like Marines are. Sometimes you're old and crusty. It is a damn good flavor on potato chips, so they had to make a crayon like that.
Yeah, and is it painted on one side the color yellow? I guess that'd be kind of like those parking bumps and the little things on post, the rocks. If you move it, salute it. If it moves, salute it. If it doesn't, paint it.
I think the color of the crayon would actually be closer to navy colors. I could see it being like yellow sulfur on one side and like a bluish salty color on the other side. So I don't really think it fits with the Marine Corps colors, but I don't want a crayon that tastes like chalk. I want it to have some good flavors, especially when I'm eating out in the field,
Yeah, you run out of Marine MREs. You need to have those crayons. Cool. Well, Alex, I appreciate your time here today with us, and people are going to need to be able to get a hold of you. So let's get some good contact info out there for them, because they'll want to be able to reach out to you for not only your business with Funnel Science, but also with the SBA Advisory Committee for Veteran Businesses. So how can they get a hold of you, and websites, emails, phone numbers, what have you?
Yeah, I think the best way to connect with me is if you go to LinkedIn and find my feed or my page on LinkedIn, just Google Alex Fender or do the LinkedIn search for that. That's a good way to get in touch with me. If you need some help and you're trying to grow your business and you need more information on sales, marketing, or SBA, you can call my cell phone. That number is 775-445-9847. And if you wanted to email me directly, that my email times are normally a little bit slow, but alex@funnelscience.com. That's FUNNEL science, SCIENCE.com. Just know if you call or text me, I normally respond much quicker that way, but I have lots of meetings in a full schedule. So if you send me an email, I may not get to it till the end of the day or the next day. And then LinkedIn, I stay real connected to that. So if you send me a message or want to get connected, that's a real good way to stay in touch with me, send me direct messages, but also to stay aware of what I'm working on. I keep it up to date and share on that regularly.
Sure. Well, excellent, Alex. Yeah, again, I appreciate that information from you, everything that we've been able to cover here. And, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be able to get to know you better. Get to know some of the things you're involved in, and get the word out for people so that they can be aware of what's going on in the world, what you do, what you stand for, and again how to get a hold of you. Again, thank you for your time, and we'll see you around the bend, my friend.
Awesome, James. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon, sir.
You too. Thank you. You've been listening to Legacy Cast. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to come back next time as we speak with more top influencers, industry experts, and business owners from around the world.